So yeah, our first speaker today is Eric Weiner from Food Trucks In, and he's been really leading the way in Rhode Island with kind of cultivating the food truck scene around here, and so he'll be talking a little bit about social distancing and food trucks, because a lot of what he does is gather people, thousands of people sometimes, in a given space, and really builds community through food. So, Eric, how are you doing?
Good. I mean, I think good is redefined from 12 weeks ago. Good now doesn't mean good from 12 weeks ago, but good under the circumstances. I mean, we're continuing to support the food truck community across the nation through our website, foodtrucksin.com, which happens to be in the middle of a complete rebuild. So we're rebuilding foodtrucksin.com. It's got over 8,500 food trucks listed on it across the country, and it's a resource for food trucks to use our technology, and it's a resource for consumers to find food trucks. And what's grown out of that website over the last 5 years, this is our 6th season of PVD food truck events. We had and have over 85 events scheduled for 2020 across Rhode Island, and we made a decision very early on to try not to cancel our events and try to reinvent them virtually. So we've been doing that since mid-April. One of the things that's been very fortunate for us is that food trucks have fallen under the same guidelines as restaurants in terms of their ability to do takeout and delivery. So food trucks really never needed to stop operating, and because they serve people at a curb, they were really more than halfway there to figure out how to continue to operate during the changes. And that biggest initial change was they had to figure out how to offer some sort of online ordering. For the first 4 or 6 weeks, trucks weren't taking walk-up service at all. You pretty much had to order online. And now more and more trucks are doing that. And some trucks have gotten more comfortable with allowing people through social distancing to wait in line and order at their windows. But we, as PVD food truck events, have decided to move forward with taking all of our scheduled events and turning them into a virtual experience. So, that means that our Food Truck Friday, which is our flagship event, which started the second week of April, is now going into its 7th week. Tonight would have been the kickoff of our food trucks and concert series at Diamond Hill Park in Cumberland. So we're, continuing to do that event tonight from 5 to 7 virtually, and I'm happy to, kind of explain how we've been able to take those events that, as Avi mentioned, would often have a minimum of 500 people to 1,000 people show up in one location with, 12 or more trucks and live music and beer and wine, and how we've been able to reinvent that to kind of be what we're saying is a real food truck experience, real local beverages, live streaming music. We've set up a portal for people to make contributions so that we can donate meals to frontline workers and first responders. And then they basically take the food, to a place where they can kind of have their own virtual event or virtual experience. And that started with taking your food home and having it in your own backyard or your own kitchen. And now, as parks and public spaces are opening up a little bit, people can take the food away from trucks and can experience it in those public spaces, as long as they're following the state of Rhode Island and DBR and DOH guidelines.
So, Eric, I as someone who's been to Roger Williams Park, for example, how does that actually work? Or do you have extra staff on hand who can just say, like, now you can exit?
Yeah. So we're pretty much still in what our phase 1 of this is, which is that we're unable to put many trucks in one location and have gatherings of large amount of people. So what our phase 1 is right now is that for tomorrow night, for Food Truck Friday, instead of us having 18 food trucks at Roger Williams Park at Carousel Village with live music and beer and wine, we've now taken 12 trucks and we've spread them into 6 different locations. So we'll have, 2 trucks at the Providence Pedestrian Bridge. We'll have 2 trucks with Frisky Fries in Johnston. We'll have 2 trucks at Gotta Q in Cumberland, and we'll have multiple trucks in different areas. We'll ask our followers to go out and pick up and order food from those trucks. and then stop at Trinity Brew House that's doing curbside pickup of beer growlers, stop at Sons of Liberty that's doing curbside pickup of their spirits and their whiskey. And then we have taken the music and the local entertainment that would have been playing at those events, and we're streaming them live from our Facebook page. So for an event tonight, like at Diamond Hill Park, it's a very different experience. We won't have 15 trucks at Diamond Hill Park, and we won't have 500 or 600 people. But what we will do is we'll still be able to engage at a community. We'll have 3 trucks parked far apart from each other at Diamond Hill Park. We'll have 2 trucks parked at Got a Q Barbecue in Cumberland. So we'll have 5 trucks in Cumberland, and then the music will stream live from our Facebook page. So at 5 o'clock tonight, those 5 trucks will start to serve so people can go out and get the food. And then Rob Davis will stream live from our Facebook page for 2 hours. So the authentic experience of those food truck events is very different. We're not able to have hundreds of people in one location, but we're giving people the individual components to maintain as much of a opportunity for people to get out and support the local food trucks that they love, to give the musicians a way to play through our platform. You know, we've got over 30,000 followers on Facebook and 11,000 on Instagram. So all the musicians have set up Venmo for tips. You know, we're matching their tips. So we're trying to give people the food piece of it, the live entertainment piece of it, the local beverage piece of it, and then they need to kind of invent how to make that their own event. And we think that what we've done is we've structured that in a way that in 2 weeks, when the gatherings go to 15, that we can now stay, instead of 2 trucks in one location, we have 4 trucks in one location. And instead of having trucks parked in surface parking lots, we can park them throughout parks. So our goal eventually is to get back to having lots of trucks in one place, and maybe even having, you know, beer and wine and live music, and then having our guests and our followers get the food and then socially distance properly over large spaces and large areas. So, you know, we've tried to not go to zero and cancel our events and not do anything, you know, and we're doing the minimum that we can, and hopefully add a little bit more in each 2-week increment as we're able to do so.
I feel like you're also developing a model that can, you know, be useful for other event organizers and events, and especially related to music. Have you been talking to people? Are people following suit? What, you know, especially with the live music scenario, and that's been completely decimated.
It is. I think that there's a lot of movements towards going to, like, you know, drive-in type models where a band could be on a stage and people could be, you know, parked in their own cars and tailgating in a big area. I think that there's a model of kind of a scavenger hunt. You know, I see that Maria from the Flea has joined. I think that, you know, depending on what the state allows, you know, the Flea could become a scavenger hunt experience where you have 3 or 4 flea vendors at multiple different locations, all a 5-10 minute drive apart, with a truck at each location. I think the biggest challenge that we're seeing with the planning of all these things is that what you're able to do may or may not change in 2-week increments. So for us, for what I do with the food trucks, you know, we're incredibly fortunate that we can be very fluid and very flexible and move very quickly. It's very easy for me to go from 2 trucks in 7 locations tomorrow to 4 trucks in 3 locations next Friday. I think for a lot of other events, it's not that easy to do that. And we're kind of taking the same approach with the music. You know, the bands that we had scheduled for all of our events, you know, we work with 15 or 16 different bands over 85 different events. You know, what we have said for them is for those that want to have a platform to play, that can afford and are able and are interested for doing it for a lower fee than what was originally planned, you know, our goal is to continue to have them play from these secret private sound stages. And we've got 3 or 4 of them. We've got a primary one, and then we've got a couple of others that are indoors for when weather's bad. And we have a couple others that we haven't announced yet that are really exciting. Our goal is to maintain that schedule for the musicians. And phase 2 for us, we're going to kind of treat it like the old radio station contest, where we're going to say, hey, you know, Dude Manbro is playing Friday night at our secret sound stage. We're going to run a contest, and 5 lucky listeners can come and see them in person properly socially distanced. So, that will be phase 2 for the musicians, and phase 3 will hopefully be to be able to put them out live someplace where they're at a far distance, where we can still have a PA set up where people can maybe not be up close and personal, but can be out, socially distanced in a large field and still hear the music. And then hopefully get back to some point where we can have the real style, up close and personal events. Then that may or may not happen in 2020, but we have been able to take these phases to say, because we're so flexible and fluid, we're going to run this model of multiple trucks in multiple locations. And what also that's allowing us to do in kind of this hybrid industry of the food trucks at the moment, we're really hyper focused in supporting this very small world that we work in day in and day out. It's what we're experts in, and we know that there are lots of people trying to help lots of small businesses, but we've been hyper focused on mobile food and food trucks and the vendors that are attached to those that we've worked with over the years. What it has allowed us to do is, for the food trucks that have opened small restaurants, they're struggling the same way the rest of the hospitality and food, restaurant industry is struggling. When we have our events like tonight and tomorrow night, what we're doing is we're taking those food trucks that own restaurants and we're parking a second food truck with them, so that now we can have 2 food truck brands in one place. So when you look at someone like Got a Q, they have 3 food trucks, but they're primarily operating out of their restaurant. So tonight, Shishka Berries will be parked there serving their chocolate covered strawberries and chocolate covered cheesecakes, and Got a Q will have one of their food trucks parked there with the truck, but they're still kind of serving curbside out of their restaurant. And there are a lot of trucks that are in that situation. Frisky Fries has opened a brick and mortar location, Buddha Belly in Warwick, Bone Town Burgers and Barbecue in Cranston. And then, so that we're trying to park second trucks at those locations to support those restaurants. And then over time, be able to park more trucks in those areas that have the space and allow, or take those trucks and move them back into an area where we can have multiple trucks in one place. And we're moving those trucks around. Like tonight, all of the trucks are in Cumberland because it would have been our Cumberland night. Next Thursday, all the trucks will be in Warwick because it would have been our Warwick night. The following week, Wednesday, will be in Woonsocket, and the following Thursday will be in South Kingstown. It's allowing us to take trucks into those neighborhoods where we would have had our events. And then Friday, which is kind of our statewide Food Truck Friday event, we're kind of spreading trucks out more over the community in a wider area.
It brings up another interesting perspective that I think for many food trucks were kind of a start and a validation point for food businesses, and with the eventual hope that they can open a brick and mortar, which can then, allow them to serve more customers and make more money. But now we're realizing the flexibility of food trucks might actually be a really good asset at this time. I wonder if less of these businesses are actually looking at storefronts these days.
I mean, I think that you'll have, with some of the speakers, with David and Kim on later, I think they might be able to touch on some of this too. But I think what it's also, you have this whole big conversation around third-party delivery apps as well, and about the cost of that. And you're starting to see a significant amount of ghost kitchens starting to open. And I think you're going to see a whole new hybrid model that might be the case either for food trucks. Instead of opening brick and mortar locations with seating, they could move into a ghost kitchen where they can do their own delivery from. I think you might start seeing that with some restaurants too, that don't want to make the commitment to indoor or outdoor seating. They might move to some ghost kitchen operations. And I think that that's a whole new segment of the industry that will have a significant impact on how food trucks and restaurants and caterers think about growing and shifting their businesses.
Yeah, I mean, the former CEO of Uber invested $150 million into a cloud kitchen startup a few years ago.
And they're opening aggressively across the country. I wouldn't be surprised to see them in Providence very soon.
I don't mean to interrupt, guys, but they are in Providence. There's a spot with 30 kitchens in it over on Bath Street by the Meals on Wheels office.
Really?
Yeah.
It's interesting how they haven't really publicized their.
I got some emails about it, but yeah, you're right. I'm surprised they haven't been. I don't know. Maybe it's because of this whole pandemic that they're in a bit of a midst of things. But yeah, they are here.
Wow.
It is. I can't remember his name. The Uber guy's company.
I think the name of their kitchens are cloud kitchens. So yeah, it's an interesting, yeah. So I think I think that'll be an interesting shift. I do think that what you're seeing with food trucks at the same time where they're very fluid and flexible, you're also seeing that the timing of this has been at a point where trucks that were on the road all winter are now really struggling to figure out how to continue to operate through this phase that is more like winter business than summer business. And trucks that take themselves off the road for the winter are really struggling to figure out how and when to come back on the road. And I do think that unfortunately, just like the rest of hospitality and the restaurant business, we will see a lot of food trucks decide to not make it back out for this season or possibly not make it back at all. But we continue to be hyper-focused to, support and have as many opportunities for those trucks that are on the road or want to be on the road by taking our events, and rather than canceling them, turn them into as much of an experience as we can. And I did, in the chat box, I posted 2 Facebook links. I think I'll also post our website for those that aren't on social media. But we do, work very hard to be very active on social media with what's coming up and what we're doing. And then we do have a website piece, where we show all of our upcoming events, and then an event page for each event showing which trucks will participate and the music that'll participate to try to, engage people. I mean, I think the one thing that is optimistic about this for us, maybe a little silver lining, is that we're still seeing a lot of people in the community really want to support what we're doing, the local trucks, and they're chomping at the bit to support them however we can. So we're excited and happy about that.